Sure, soup set up as well.
25 past 7, so we're interpreting this as 7 p.m. sharp.
Is there time? Have you lost it?
Guys!
Were you really lucky?
Robbie, what are you doing?
What?
Call the flipping meeting to order.
There was a slight spell.
Oh no!
Silence! Order!
Okay, are you good on this bill?
Sophie's going to get some things.
Okay.
I'll look like to get some stuff before my
Your star comment.
Okay. Is everybody good to start now? We're all good? No?
Yes, we'll work.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike. Go on my back. Okay, so just a few announcements. Our formal was on Tuesday. Many of you were actually there. We all had a good time. Thanks for coming down. This is pretty good. So I think a round of applause for Emma for organizing. Nice, Emma. Yeah, okay, I have a weird announcement. Does anybody own this scarf?
Yes, please.
Is it recognizable to anyone?
It looks really familiar.
Rosie, is that
It's
Lils?
not. It's hard to
It looks like a 90s tie.
interpreted it as.
Divided equally between the characters. It might well be Lily Allen's.
Okay, so we're interpreting this as Lily. I don't know why I had that. Just so you know, this was found randomly in Mary Louise's room.
Where is it?
That's even worse. So yeah, just on topic of the formal, so I've decided that we're all just never going to Cafe Portable, so none of you are allowed to go there. As members of the Literific, you are not allowed, and we all have boycotted them forever. Okay?
Next weekend.
Sophie?
Yeah, I know that you just walked in fucking up and down. Yeah, so I'm sure that you didn't think, thank you, that I never thought about university ever again. Well, sorry, Angela. So there are 2 universities coming up this summer, which if you're about would be really, really great for people to come to. There's the Trinity Open, which is on the 26th and the 27th of June, and then the Earls Court Open, which is an easy date, which is on the 4th and the 5th of July. And we'll be doing a workshop beforehand, like if you've never been to an IB and you want to know like what happens and stuff, we'll run a workshop beforehand, and we're also looking for judges as well. So if you don't want to speak but you do want to judge, get in touch with me or Ben, who's not here, but let us know, and we'll let people know about the workshop as well. The 26th and the 27th of June.
Yes.
Okay, so I think that's all for the announcements. So I'd like to welcome Mr. Robbie Whitehurst.
Good evening, one and all. The general election debate at the Literific took place on the 7th of April in the Senate room and was attended by 37 members. 500 visits was accepted from Ms. Alex Philpott, who asked the House to acknowledge the wonderful work of interim convener Ms. Emma Chandler in preparing and chairing the evening's debate, which I'd like to appreciate once again now. Ms. Chandler, in her role as our resident David Dimbleby, then moved the House to begin proceedings by asking each respective candidate to make a 30-second opening speech. For practicality's sake, from this point forward, all speakers may be identified by their respective party. Mr. Harry Nigel Adair, representing the United Kingdom Independence Party, stressed to the House that we couldn't possibly hope to deal with many current issues until we regain serenity from the behemoth of Brussels. Ms. Kylie Natalie Noble, representing the Green Party, warned against the ever-present danger of climate change and informed the House that a bit of imagination is just what we need to get this country back on track. Mr. Conor Nicola Hogan, representing the Scottish National Party, brigaded against the dedication of some to silly nuclear weapons and accused the Tories of being morally bankrupt. Speaking of morally bankrupt, Mr. Craig David Miller,
Resign.
Speaking for the British Conservative Party, wished to remind the House how well the current economically is supposedly faring, how the UK has the best social cancer survival rate in the world, and how his party would ensure a better society for all. Mr. Robert Liam Murtagh, representing Plaid Cymru, urged the House to strive for a stronger and better Wales with first-rate devolution. Mr. Richie Nick Gallagher, representing the Lib Dems, reminded the House that politics is not governed by one's upbringing and promised upward social mobility for all. And finally, Mr. Finbar Ed Rogers, representing the Labour Party, refuted what he called the greatest myth of modern times, that you can't trust Labour with the economy. He asserted that his party's policy would ensure the highest possible amount of people would be protected in the event of a market crash. Without further ado, the first question of the evening came from Mr. Ben Murphy, who inquired as to the panel's stance on cuts to legal aid, making it extremely difficult for the poorest to be adequately represented in court. Mr. Miller insisted that the Tories were going to keep legal aid and in allowing for those who needed to get more bang for their buck. Mr. Hogan interjected by saying the £250 million cut to legal aid was one of the worst Tory policies, saying that it ripped up and destroyed equality. Green Speaker Miss Noble then criticised the Conservatives' wish to do away with the Human Rights Act, which the respective speakers for both Plaid and the Labour Party labelled as an act of callous chauvinists. Unsurprisingly, Mr. Adair asserted that Europe itself is an abuse on human rights, and that the cornerstone of justice in Britain lies in the ability to represent oneself through the use of legal aid. On the subject of his party's inability to prevent cuts on legal aid in children's justice cases, the Lib Dems Mr. Gallagher put forward the understatement of the century in claiming that, indeed, mistakes do happen. Ms. Chadwick then moved the House to consider the savage cuts being made to higher education and how each party could ensure its future. The audible rustle of a room full of students eagerly leaning forward could be heard. Mr. Gallagher, somewhat inevitably, was quick to apologise for his party's previously shifting stance on increasing student fees. Ms. Noble then stated that education was a fundamental right and pointed to the example of most other European states where this is the case already. UKIP's own Mr. Adair lamented the loss of grammar schools and asserted the importance of STEM students from lower income backgrounds being allowed to succeed. Plaid's Mr. Murtagh then wrecks the House back to the Welsh desire for first-rate devolution, allowing them to follow the Scottish example of having free higher education for Welsh students. Mr. Murtagh burned the Labour Party a total failure, leading Mr. Rogers to inquire as to exactly why the country voted them in.
Huzzah!
Mr. Miller's Conservative approach was to leave fees as they are while increasing access to well-regulated loans, while Mr. Hogan heralded the Scottish system, insisting that more graduates equates to a better economy. The next topic of discussion came from Mr. James McNally, who inquired as to what Britain's role in the world should actually be. Miss Noble called for an end to quibbles over identity and politics, and for us to increase focus on our frankly despicable lack of awareness for the environment. Labour's Mr. Rogers stated that Britain was like the opposite of a snake, abound with change on the inside, but never really to change its outward image.
Well said.
He also said something about getting into a bath, which no one understood.
Yes. Bath. Liquidity. Give us a kiss.
Mr. Adair nicked the serpentine comparisons in the bud and instead advocated for less intervention in foreign countries and pointed towards a points-based immigration system not unlike that of Australia. Mr. Miller expressed the Tory view that we should tackle tax evasion, utilise a nuclear energy solution, support a two-state solution in the Middle East, and seek a cure for Ebola. Mr. Hogan echoed the need for a two-state solution and emphasised the need to Britain's trident, to remain in the EU and to continue to improve LGBT rights. Mr. Miller's bravado in claiming that the Tories implemented gay marriage was slapped down by Mr. Hogan in stating that indeed, we in Scotland did it first. Ms. Chadwick then moved the panel to consider whether it was right that private companies profit from the NHS. While the SNP, Plaid Cymru, the Labour Party, the Greens, the Lib Dems and, surprisingly, UKIP, all categorically said never, Mr. Miller asked that we don't act hastily and explore our options before deciding what would definitively keep the NHS free at the point of care. He called for further freedom to negotiate with drug companies in order to achieve a fairer deal for lower income persons. From the floor, President Poryahia raised the issue of the horribly underfunded mental health sector in Britain. Mr. Gallagher heralded the Lib Dems' previous stance on mental health issues and promised to implement standards on waiting times for those seeking treatment. Mr. Miller asserted that the fruits of the Tories' labour will be seen in the next 5 years, as GPs will earn a greater understanding of mental health and end the current binge on antidepressants. Mr. Adair of UKIP lambasted the cuts to mental health under the coalition and sought to find the method in the madness of sending foreign aid to countries with fully functioning space programmes. Plaid candidate also sought reformation of mental health awareness, and Mr. Murtaugh stating that teachers should be trained in recognising potential issues early, with more counsellors in schools to begin with. Ms. Chadwick then inquired as to the panel's opinion on the fact that while the unemployment rate has fallen, wages remain stagnant. Mr. Miller was eager to point out that wages aren't stagnant and have risen by 2%, yet recognised the need to develop outside the IT and financial sectors. Ms. Noble bore the standard for Greens in stating that we should be paying the living wage, not the minimum wage, while Mr. Hogan proposed that we instead gradually increase the minimum wage, aiming for £8.70 by the end of the parliamentary term. He stated that comparatively our minimum wage is a disgrace and we should invest more in public services. UKIP representative Mr. Adair insisted on a two-pronged approach by increasing the power of Britain's businesses through leaving the EU and raising the personal tax allowance to match the minimum wage. And finally, Miss Aisha Sobey decided to at long last address the mammoth in the room by asking simply, who would you buddy up with in the event of a hung parliament? Mr. Rogers stated that a Labour SNP coalition would go swimmingly so long as Nicola Sturgeon didn't attempt to seize a post office. I don't know. Lib Dem Mr. Gallagher acknowledged that while he may have said Labour, he may have said Labour previously, true to form, he revealed that he was now inclined to yet another Lib Con coalition. Mr. Miller further contributed to the Tory Lib Dem oven amidst calls to get a room. Mr. Adair labelled the Lib Dems as mere puppets and in a somewhat ironic Braveheart styling, like a rallying call for the House to join in the British People's Army. Meanwhile, the Greens, SNP and Plaid were one more eyelash bat away from asking for some time alone and even pondered the possibility of teaming up with the Labour Party. Before the debate, a preliminary vote was taken based on personal voting preferences, which read as follows. UKIP 1, Greens 10, SNP 0, Conservative 3, Plaid 0, Lib Dem 2 and Labour 6. Following the debate, a casting vote was then taken based on the arguments given and cases made by each respective party, which read as such. UKIP 2, Greens 2, SNP 12, Conservative 5, Plaid 8, Lib Dem 2 and Labour 1. May I take the minutes as read?
No.
Minutes is ready, we take the minutes as passed.
May I take the minutes as passed?
Okay, so moving on. I believe my phrase of choice is yo.
Get you with the bell.
Any private member's business?
Can I move that we now have an applause for the minutes, given that it was 2 minutes?
Okay. Yes.
Hello. Keep this as brief as possible.
Good.
Hopefully.
Hi.
Hi.
How's your name?
It's going well.
Hey.
Yes. Hopefully you all know that I'm the guy who broadcasts and records the bits, and I do so on behalf of
You never mentioned it.
We Radio. Unfortunately, I've been doing so over the past year with my capacity as part of the committee, a capacity which is ending come June 1st. As such, I don't really believe that they intend to continue doing it next year. Certainly no one has ever expressed any interest in doing it besides me. So I would like the House to request that I specifically continue to record and broadcast the debates by myself.
Seconded.
Without any help in radio. Seconded.
Seconded, so the motion is to let Calvin record all our debates in future. Everybody who agrees, please say aye.
Aye.
And anybody who doesn't like that, please say nay. Anybody who doesn't have an opinion. Okay, yes. Okay, yes.
On that point, tonight's debate is actually being broadcast over a slightly different URL. It's actually being broadcast over literific.com. A domain which I took the liberty of purchasing, :8080/radio. That's where it will be from now on. So, huzzah in the future.
Thank you, Calvin. Any other private members' business?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm President. It was said earlier, Literific is better than loyalists.
So let's go.
Too late. That was more like a sticker.
Yes. Well done. Good.
Yes.
I just want to say, can he train somebody up next year so that when he does leave, there's somebody that can take his place?
Whitehurst, stand up.
Don't get me involved.
I've been waiting for his hair to grow.
Sorry.
Okay, two pieces. First one is just a reading of a status that was put up by Letter which was all days all I could. Letter for Council meeting, 15th November 1958. A suggestion should be made from the chair regarding ill-mannered heckling, and the heckler should stand up and heckle audibly. It doesn't actually say Mr. Finbar Rogers in this, but just wonder what you thought. And second piece, wonder what people thought of the general election results that were last week without being
Shame.
too heckly or too.
I generally assume rules don't apply to me.
Yes.
Similar with
You are
law.
assuming very wrong. I will probably find you by the end of the night.
You haven't for the last 3 years. I'm still here, James isn't.
What is everybody? What more Christmas fighting in?
I've got some wine actually. If you want some.
So, guys, there's actually, since this piece of primary business was actually decided in advance, we have a prize going for the best point, and it's a Fusion voucher. So, take it seriously. Okay? So, okay, go.
Thank you. Just so everyone knows, you will have received an email from me yesterday about this, but please vote in the student union referendum. Vote whatever way you wish.
Here, Gallagher, sit down.
Why? What's wrong with that?
We are dealing with a piece of private member's business as is.
And sit down because voting closes in 20 minutes. So
Try to add your.
I'm sorry, okay, I'll wait.
And also bringing up the student union in here. What are you?
We told you.
You want to fight, bro? Because looking at our account, you give us like so little money that it's not worth it.
Well, if it's so little that it means nothing, then maybe we shouldn't give you any.
Anyway,
I withdraw the previous statement.
guys, who would like to speak on the general election point that Mark brought up?
I just like to make a quick point that I believe that nothing creates Christmas. Like we used to have it,
Celebrate Christmas.
well,
The funniest thing you've said all year.
Genuinely, what do you want me to do with this? Trying to facilitate a mini debate.
Okay.
Guys,
I think I'm one of the majority of the house here when I say that I've never in that time of life when I was Copus Mentis lived under a majority conservative government. I would not. Now there were 3 years at the beginning of my life where I lived under a majority conservative government, but was not Copus Mentis, and I think these two facts might be related in some way. That general point aside, I was rather surprised by the election result. I certainly didn't expect the Conservatives to get a majority, although I thought that England might be sufficiently spooked by the Scots to vote for the Conservatives more than is perhaps healthy. I'm very worried about the impact that the Conservative Party will have over the next few years in government. They're already going after the Human Rights Act, which is a very bizarre thing to go after, because I for one think that national sovereignty is rather an over-egged concern in the debates that go on around politics here. As a second point, they're also going to go after the BBC because they prefer Murdoch to be doing the news. He's more likely to support them, and I'm worried about that. And they're going to go madly after welfare, which they didn't say in their manifesto. I know you like it, but which they didn't say in their manifesto because they thought it would be unpopular. But let's be honest, nobody puts unpopular things in manifestos anymore. And I think that the result of that could be very deleterious to England. So I expect, frankly, the upshot of all this is I expect in 5 years to be living in a sovereign state of the United States of America.
anybody would like to respond? And say?
I don't want to respond.
You can.
I agree with everything you said, so.
Okay, well, you can say something that is also agreeing.
Can I say something completely different? Is that
Yes.
Yes, yes.
So my thing was like looking at this from a completely impartial but Northern Irish perspective. If we're gonna I know it's weird, but if we're gonna if the Conservatives have got in, that means we're gonna have a referendum on EU membership, which means that Sinn Féin have kind of got to pick between two parts of their core values, whether they want to be in the EU or if they want to be independent with the South. I just thought that was very interesting and something that we need to consider.
The shitters are yours.
Yeah.
Not that I hope
Yes,
shit.
if they want to they're Eurosceptic, but if they want to be with the South, then they have to look at the Euro and want to be with the Euro. But then if they vote no, then joining the rest of the UK.
Yeah.
Okay, if we want to talk, we have to put up our hands. And then the spirit stick will just metaphorically go to you. Okay, who wants to do that?
I'll let Craig stay.
I'm not gonna let you. No.
Okay.
Yes.
First of all, I just wanted to say that I don't think Sinn Féin are Eurosceptic at all. I think we're very, very pro-Europe. Probably the most pro-Europe party down south. And I also want to say that I think the general election was a travesty. And I'd like to propose a moment's silence for Nick Brown.
So the motion is a moment of silence. Everyone in favour, please say aye.
From the amendment?
No. Just stop trying to make it happen. Everybody in favour of a moment of silence, please say aye.
Aye.
Everybody against, say nay.
Nay.
Okay. And yes, Ben?
Yes, I would just like to say, in light of the election results, people are idiots and democracy is silly.
Okay, go ahead.
Alright, well, I actually agree with Aisha's point. I think it will be interesting, but another facet of that EU referendum is the Scotland question, where most Scottish people are overwhelmingly pro-EU. So, in the event of one passing, I think it would accelerate the separation of Scotland from the rest of the UK. So something else.
I think we should take a point before moving on. Yes.
Oh, come on. Let me have a speak.
Hmm?
You don't like Craig talking to
Yeah.
Not the prospect of speaking. He's barely giddy. He can barely keep his tracks together.
I'm gonna go with Mr. Jackal.
So I know that I definitely read a lot about shy Tories and the idea that was why and that was the reason why the polls were completely wrong. So maybe the other types of questions that we need to take out of the election are how do we make people actually feel comfortable with expressing their political views rather than feeling like they could say, oh, I'm going to vote this country and then be shot down for the way that they feel.
Craig, have ideas?
Yeah. Well, I think we have to actually move on because we're to be honest. Craig, can you promise to keep it to like 30 seconds?
Yeah.
Okay, so
We need to leave the EU. They're a disgrace. We need to get rid of human rights.
guys, calm down.
Wait, it's like the welfare bill, right? I actually can't. It's £220 billion. We only raise 140 in income tax.
Okay, so Louise, would you like to pick the best point, the winner of the food adventure?
Well, Owen, I actually joined picked it as he did, so.
Alright.
Everyone also going to the internal meeting. Taking this opportunity to do that. And I think Craig. I think that was a pretty good
When's the internal meeting? question.
Yes,
When's the internal convening meeting?
it's the 8th of June, isn't it?
Thank you.
Yep, 8th of June. Okay, so I think we'll close private members' business now. If you would like more private members' business, you can, in future, email the president, who will be Miss Marley Sinnott from now on, or their secretary, Mr. Robbie Whitehurst, and they will put in the agenda. Okay, guys, continuing. Guys, when I say the continuing, it's like,
Cheers.
is there any president's questions? Anybody have a question for me? Yes.
Madam Secretary, earlier today you ate 24 pizzas. How do you feel about the statement? How do you feel about the statement pizza is not big?
Pizza is not big. Pizza's not big. Pizza's not big. I agree.
I look forward to the president 50-year time meeting last night.
Pizza's not big. So pizza definitely not big. Don't do it. Don't eat that amount of pizza. Don't let your friend make you eat that amount of pizza. Just don't do it. Okay, continue. Yes. Yes.
Just wondered, Madam President, before the 24-inch pizza, what did you have for breakfast?
We discussed that this wouldn't be an appropriate question.
Was it the 24-inch pizza?
No. It was. I had fish for breakfast with a slice of bread.
What kind of fish?
Randy bastard.
Rainbow trout and cake. Random. It was
Jesus thing.
Just kidding.
Did you get it from
Any other
Jesus?
questions? Yes.
Sorry, last one. How do you feel about this being your last debate? There's so many fines out here. How do you feel about this being your last debate that you're chairing?
It's not really sunk in yet. Right now, I'm just very full and tired and need a nap. So I'm just a bit cranky from that. But it doesn't really feel like my last debate. So I'll tell you, like in about a week when you see me crying at me. Yes.
May I just propose a small toast of gratitude for the wonderful work that you have done as our president in the form of short applause.
Yeah, that was just a proposal.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. And yes, Mr. Alexander.
I apologise for those of you who don't get this reference, but Madam President, could you please give us your best good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Do I get that reference? Oh man, I can't do that enough.
Just try it on.
All in favour?
Aye.
I am the only president in this room that has the power to bring that motion to the highest council. You are so getting fined for just being part of the union.
Can we have a moment of applause for the Tory government?
No.
You can get fucked.
Can we get a boom?
Yes.
Guys. Oh no! Seriously, you know what? Next person that I swear to God speaks out of line, and by out of line I mean you're not a speaker or you're not a point of information that has been accepted. Anyone, and I am so fighting all of you. Do I seem like I am in a good mood right now?
Yeah.
No, man.
Okay, so tonight. But seriously, I'll find y'all. And these will bring it like tomorrow ladies, we shall have a really good first debate. I can't produce now, that's why I have to say it. So tonight's motion is this House to make Northern Ireland a registered charity. So to go go over the rules again briefly, I'm sure you're all familiar with it. Speeches are 7 minutes long, the first and last minute are protected. I'll ring the bell and that's how you know those minutes have passed or whatever. In the middle 5 minutes you may make a point of information by standing up and saying on that point. It's up to the speaker to accept or reject that. If they accept it, then obviously they'll answer it. Right after they've answered it, nobody can then make another point of information, and you cannot respond to how they've answered it, kind of thing, just so they can get back into the speech. So no swearing, no party politics, no religious polemic. Don't do it, you'll get fined. Also, no annoying me too much, because as you can tell, I'm crabby and I will find you if there's too much pizza in there. Don't test me at this point. I think that's all. Yes, does anybody have anything else about? No, okay. Yes, so I would like to welcome Mr. Lee Broussard to open for the proposition.
Madam President, Acting Secretary, members of the House. I would like to just start off today by saying that I feel proud to be Northern Irish. I consider Northern Ireland like my nationality, my country. It's the place that raised me, it's the place where my morals have been developed and my ideals. And so, in arguing that Northern Ireland should be made a registered charity, I'm not criticising Northern Ireland, I'm not downplaying it. I'm just trying to do what I believe would be best for Northern Ireland. A charity is like a non-profit organisation. Generally, when people think of charities, they think of helping people, like people in Africa or people who are struggling for other reasons, like maybe through illnesses or sicknesses. But charities can be things that help with help promote religion or education or health or public interest projects. And it's just things that generally benefit the public. From what I could understand, a registered charity is one that earns over $5,000 a year, so I think that Northern Ireland would fall into that.
Northern Ireland actually doesn't take any taxes whatsoever, so technically it doesn't earn anything at all.
I don't know, I disagree. I think they do at least handle the taxes. Maybe they send them all to the UK, but they do take the taxes in. So you could argue that they do make money. I don't know, I'm good with that. Also, just Northern Ireland is very dependent upon the UK for survival. As you yourself point out, they don't make a lot of money. A lot of the money that they get to survive comes from England, or the UK anyway. And so, in some ways, Northern Ireland is surviving off the charitable work or donations from the UK government. And as such, making Northern Ireland a registered charity wouldn't really change that much. It's not like Northern Ireland supporting itself. It's actually about 9 million. Whatever.
Are you more arguing that Northern Ireland is a charity?
I'm saying it should be. Charity's a status, and basically it fills the things that could make it into a charity, so why not make it a charity? Because, at least from my line of thinking, making it a charity would be more beneficial for Northern Ireland rather than just leaving it the way it is.
On that point, sir?
No barracking.
Yeah, whatever. Generally, the benefits of being a charity include things like not having tax rebate things, and also it includes you get more publicity and you're more recognised for the things that you do. And a lot of times it seems that Northern Ireland isn't recognised. I've spoken to a lot of people from America, and they don't know that Northern Ireland exists. They just take it as Ireland as a whole. Yeah, go for it.
So what would you say to the charge you singularly failed to define anything in terms of this motion so far? It's not very clear what you mean by Northern Ireland, and charity in the motion seems to be meant in a sort of metaphorical way, but you're reading very, very literally.
Give him a chance to speak.
I can take the motion how I feel like it. If I choose to find literally, then I can do so. And what was the other part, sorry?
You haven't really said what you mean by Northern Ireland.
Okay, well, by Northern Ireland, I would mean the government institutions in Northern Ireland. I don't think you can class a group of people as a charity, more people who run it and like organise it. So that's what I'm going to go for. Also, like a lot of people over in England that I've spoken to, even like they don't always recognise that Northern Ireland exists. And so if Northern Ireland was made registered charity, it would at least bring us into the public eye more.
On that point,
Yeah, go for it.
So are you proposing that we be a UK registered charity or an international registered charity, because you seem to be going for this?
Yeah, whatever works. Like, it doesn't bother me. As long as we're happy, as long as people continue to finance us and provide for us, I don't mind, doesn't bother me. What about that?
No barking.
And so, no. So yeah, just, I believe that Northern Ireland should be a charity, like a registered charity. I believe that it's not going to actually change too much in the way the country runs. We're still going to receive the money that we need, like there's still going to be jobs and institutions, but that at least change the status and it'll bring it, like, it'll give it more of a place in the world, like people recognise it more. And so I urge you to vote for the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Russard. I'd now like to welcome Mr. Jack Thompson to open for the opposition.
Hello everyone. So first off, we'll get into the definition, so how we want to really define this motion. And what we're really going for is that by charity, we're looking at something that Northern Ireland is to become a charity. It's going to be monies distributed from a board of trustees, which a charity have, who will most likely be the already elected individuals in charge of this country, and they're already pretty crap at what they do. So do you really want them in charge? So for this motion, I'm going to go through 4 main points. So we're going to go through 4 main points. I'm going to go through some sort of the ethical side of it. I'm going to go through the skill set that Northern Ireland actually has at the minute. I'm going to go through some of the patronage that actually occurs that we see globally. And then finally, I want to look a bit at Stormont itself. And then Harry's going to reflect on this as well. He's going to back me up on this because we're a team. So going to first go to the ethical side of it. So by making a whole country into a charity in itself, you really do a lot of stuff which kind of brings it down. You really begin to disempower the people in themselves. So you give the people absolutely no economic incentive to better themselves, to improve themselves, to improve the country. You're taking power away from people within the country, within the private sector and the business, and you're bringing it up and putting it on to then these board of trustees and these elected individuals, and you're really doing a massive disservice to the public and themselves. If we actually then look at in terms of the patronage of it, go ahead.
Surely that's a contrary to your argument. You say people don't have the power to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, and that's precisely why we shouldn't take that power away from them.
Well, that's what I'm talking about is that we're saying that it's most likely that those who will be put in charge will be the already elected individuals. So that's what I'm saying, is that this isn't a just system for the people themselves. They're saying that the people who are in charge aren't actually doing a service to the people, and that by bringing in this system will also be doing a disservice to the people as well. The one thing I want to look at is the patronage that is created by the charities as well, that empowers people. What we see already in Northern Irish politics is we see this cronyism that occurs, that we see individuals who've been just sitting up in Stormont and in Stormont for a while, get the money they want. We have the DUP bringing money in to invest in an island, do the things we want, and we see Sinn Féin investing into these cultural projects. And we don't actually see them investing into any proper infrastructure. We see them investing into welfare, and we don't see this diverse investment that occurs. And the big thing for... I'll go for Sophie.
But surely if we were to create Northern Ireland as a registered charity, we would hold new elections to voting people that actually know how to run charities and are not just there as political figures, but know in terms of how charity runs, we can bring in international figures and make it a more charitable place.
Well, this is the point, I think, but I don't think this is necessarily a charity is the way forward to do it. I think I'll bring in my little key phrase. I think what we need is cultural shift. And I'm going to actually bring that up later on in my argument. So what we'll see, this coordination that already exists, where we have these people being brought in who have like favours of who you know rather than what you do, seems to happen in Northern Ireland. I think this will all be exaggerated even more so. And if we then bring this and we look at the African nations and what we had as the White Man Guild, and they went over with the Millennium Development Goals, and then they decided to try and invest money into these countries and give aid to these countries in the same way that we give aid in Northern Ireland. You actually see a polarisation of the people and the public. You've seen the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. You've seen these Millennium Development Goals with unsustainable development. All of these countries were developed in such a way that their infrastructure was developed, or the economy was. Let me finish. That their economy wasn't actually developed in a way. There was so much unsustainable development that the post 2015 now, looking at the Millennium Development Goals, we've seen it as a massive failure, and that we need to build on it in a sustainable approach. And I don't think that the charities, in their way, will do any different from this.
You said you were going to describe development in Africa, but you seem to have gotten your notes confused because I think you were just describing Northern Ireland.
So we also see in Northern Ireland as well at the minute there is the polarised skill sets. So we have a lot of people who are the low skill sets and all of the high skill sets, and we don't really have anybody in the middle ground from the industrial era that we did have before, and the industries that we had before. This all seems to be disappearing, and we've seen this massive brain drain where we have these highly intelligent people where we produce we get quite good grades in Northern Ireland. We all know we produce quite a high number of graduates, but all of them leave because there is nothing here in the economy to keep them, and this could all be improved on itself. And this is where we need to concentrate an improvement for Northern Ireland rather than creating it into a charity. Now, Stormont in themselves, as was brought up before by the first speaker, is that they don't deal with the tax themselves, and because they don't deal with tax themselves, then the government aren't interested in any way of putting in reforms that will see an economic benefit. What they want to see is, instead of an economic return, they want to see a political return. So they don't invest in the roads, they don't invest in the infrastructure, they don't invest in the waterworks, they don't invest in any of this because it's not going to get people to vote for them. They want to invest in they want to invest into their cultural projects, and they want to invest massively into welfare because Craig, let me look at this point though. No. So they're going to invest in welfare, and what they'll see is a return for them because their voters will vote for them because they see a return, but they're not actually bringing anything economically viable to the country. So what we need to see then is a change in how we invest, and we've got to reduce welfare spending, and we've got to distribute the actual funding out to be a lot more equal in that way. The other thing we also need is that this country is very introverted in its thinking. We still complain about flags and we still complain about marching. And what we do need is a whole new change of politicians. We need a whole new change of party politics. We need cultural shift and cultural drift again. Yes.
And how do you propose to go about getting said cultural shift?
Magic. Cultural shift, cultural drift, of course, has its own thing. It isn't revolutionary, which it can be if you want it. Revolutionary, but Harry himself will develop more in this. Thank you, Harry. So again, just as I want to say, is that they're making Northern Ireland HR itself and doing a massive disservice to the public and themselves. We have no economic incentives. We don't need to change this country so that we give more money, and that we become more dependent on the state. We got to steer away from trying to gain ourselves in these charitable gains. What we're going to do is build Northern Ireland and become more economically independent by building on our infrastructure, by building on educating our young people into going into more middle and medium service jobs. And we've got to then get rid of this brain drain and keep money in Northern Ireland. And I think this is far more feasible than giving it into a charitable sort of way in which we will see unsustainable development in Northern Ireland. So I encourage you all to oppose the motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. And I'd like to welcome Mr. Derek Crosby to continue through the process.
Good evening, everyone. You'll have to excuse me, I haven't actually written a speech. I wasn't quite sure which side I was on, so this is going to be by nature very vague and rambling, and it won't make a lot of sense, and its facts won't be accurate. So just pay attention when I stop talking. There was a joke there, but it didn't work. Anyway, so far from in this debate, we've rather heard two assumptions on the nature of registered charities in Northern Ireland. Firstly, is the idea that democracy is good and more of it will somehow make the place better. I think, as we can see from the news from the last month, that might not strictly speaking be true. And secondly speaking, this idea that charity is inherently bound with paternalism. you know, you mentioned the White Man's Club, the idea that, you know, we're giving back to the less fortunate than ourselves, which is, of course, a tremendously antiquated notion of what charity is. Of course, the one real obligation that binds charity is that essentially they must provide a public benefit. And as far as I can see, that would be the greatest incentive to turn Northern Ireland into a charitable state. Now, so far essentially, although various nations have subscribed to human rights acts and clauses, they scrape along, they do the bare minimum, and indeed the nation's only real task is to exist, to continue its own miserable, pitiful existence at whatever cost to the public good and to its citizens, rather like you. Yeah, right.
Will you support the abolition of whales?
No, they're very essential, they eat up all the plankton. And I think there's a rule against barracking. Lectured by me, I'm an outsider, I'm a fresh perspective. Anyway, so, democracy. We've heard a lot of talk about sort of how people in democratic voting, you know, they talk a big game about the public good and how they're concerned with Commonwealth and Commonweal. But once they get behind the curtain, they're looking out for number one. They're looking out for the big guy. They're looking out for themselves. If we take that right away from people and we instill a benevolent dictatorship whose only one commandment is do things in the public good, and then somehow maybe make a way to get rid of them, almost like a vote of no confidence. You can have a sort of annual vote of no confidence in the board of managers of this particular insane charity. Anyway, if you did that, I think you'd actually see a lot of investment, a lot of human capital growth as well. You mentioned earlier on that the democratic system, or the democratic system we have, rather impinges upon capital investment, long-term thinking. There is actually a state I know of that has amazing long-term thinking and a great deal of infrastructure. That would be China. And of course their democracy is notoriously, well, paradoxical. So what I'm suggesting is that if you had this group that were only accountable by vote of no confidence, and even then they were somewhat irregular, and it would only be called if people thought they were doing a really bad job if they weren't behaving in the public good, so to speak. Yeah?
You know, as much as technocracy seems like a good idea on paper, it tends to ignore the general fact that people tend to respond a lot to incentives and biases and various dodgy things. And I think you massively overestimate the ability of Northern Ireland to produce the world's first entirely non-dodgy, non-liable to get stuck up in his own silly agendas technocrat.
I wasn't talking about technocrats, I was talking about oligarchs. Entirely different.
Technocratic oligarchs? You said specialists?
Ooh, I think there's that thing about barracking again. You've had your moment. So yeah, of course, as well, you mentioned the idea that, of course, people are only incentivised to behave. Now, of course, if you had a sort of managerial top-down kind of structure with the ability of the people below to get rid of, not essentially hire other people, you would essentially have, people would behave. They'd be behaving in their own interest. If they were seen to commit malfeasance or embezzlement, or they were seen to favour their friends, as you see in the democracies that we have now, the public would essentially be able to get rid of them in a sort of more cooperative state. Oh God, this is absolutely I'd just like to point out that the Charities Act 2011, which I learned from the Journal of Wikipedia Studies today, provides the following other list of charitable purposes, which no one has yet defined, as our friend Craig? Steve, Chris, Bill, Nath,
Jeremiah.
Jesus, Jeremiah, yeah, anyway. As he pointed out, no one has yet actually defined what a charity is. According to the Charities Act 2011, a charity must try and provide one of the following purposes. Prevention or relief of poverty, advancement of education, advancement of health or the saving of lives, advancement of citizenship or community development, advancement of the arts, culture, heritage or science, advancement of amateur sport, advancements of human rights, advancements of environmental protection or improvement, the relief of those in need by reason of youth, age, ill health, disability, financial hardship, just a second, or other disadvantagement, the advancement of animal welfare, the promotion of the efficiency of the armed forces, other purposes currently recognised as charitable and any new charitable purposes which have two similar purposes. Yes.
Surely we could achieve achieve all of those things just from a complete political overhaul rather than become a charity?
Do you know it would be an absolutely excellent political overhaul? Becoming a charity. Of course you are indeed right. A lot of other ways would do this, but this would be the most dramatic and by far the most convenient for me to talk about. So that's what I'm going to talk about. Oh, may I protect my time? Now, can I say what I want for the camera? Great. Yes, democracy is bad. A top-down, but with a central sacking, sort of top-down, middle, sideways. No, top-down, bottom, sideways, middle, sort of vibrating place. Sort of state would be a lot more efficient, a lot better for investment than a democratic state. The obligation to perform a public good and indeed the drive to better mankind through any of the reasons I stated above, which I'm not going to do again, would essentially be what I think would be a brilliant incentive to transform Northern Ireland from a democratic state to a charitable state. I'd like to say as well, I don't think this is specifically to do with Northern Ireland. I don't want this to be done, to Northern Ireland by old Father Britain, who'll sort of nuzzle Northern Ireland into his breast and say, well, now, my lad, what's all this? Northern Ireland could be a beacon to other states. It could lead a global cultural revolution towards a better world, and then Northern Ireland wouldn't just be just this piddly backwater hanging around in the middle of the Atlantic. Northern Ireland would be a political, economic, and political and social giant. Anyway,
my arse.
I'd also like to start on the next half of my speech, because I realised it's beyond really ringing the bell. That's kind of it, isn't it?
No, I can find you in about 20 seconds.
I'll just not come back.
You can ask.
Gallery debates.
Okay, you can
ask for more time.
Yes.
Can I really?
Yes.
Yes.
Call a motion.
I'm done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Crosby. And now I'd like to welcome Mr. Harry Adair to continue for the opposition.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Well, first I'd like to begin with the elephant in the room. That is the reputation of what was probably the most scathing criticism of Enlightenment ideas since the Reich. The first assumption that democracy is good. Well, I will admit we didn't make one. However, we think with the history of Northern Ireland and the legacy of the peace process, generally getting people to agree to representatives which represent their communities and at least look out for their best interests is the best way to stop us from killing each other. Also, although we don't say it's a brilliant system, it certainly is better than returning to some sort of two-headed hydra, which has been inspired by the proposition for Marx. And finally, I'd also like to bring us back to the idea that not being a democracy would see us ineligible for a lot of EU hush money which we receive. Anyway, let's see how it is. The spectres of the past still loom over this country. We have a backward, honestly, agrarian economy. We have the politics of paramilitary tribes who appeal to the power of the mob to see their agenda pushed through. However, despite this situation, be under no illusion that accepting charity from other countries, which may or may not be better off than us, will be a solution to this problem. In fact, it will be as good as putting a band-aid on a missing limb. I will say this due to two major issues which face Northern Ireland today, and will take away the money. Yes, passing the buck from the government to private investors is a poor idea, for it doesn't actually resolve the issues underneath the surface, which are what really plaguing the economy. Poor infrastructure, as was brought up by my colleague. However, there is another one. What would happen to NI's fledgling, fragile reputation as a place for business if we do turn ourselves into a charity and say, no, the government can't run its own state?
On that point,
okay, go ahead.
Do we seriously, when we have something empty buildings in this city centre, really have that great a reputation for hosting businesses?
I mean, I'm not saying that's not true, but tourism grew 7% last year. We've seen the opening of Titanic Quarter, new IT businesses are opening up. It's a fragile recovery, I'll admit that. So why do we take a sledgehammer to it and say, no, we can't do it anymore, let's just take whatever we can get, scraps from everyone else. 20% of NI's economic output is already in the form of charity from the rest of the United Kingdom. I believe the absolute figure is 300 million.
It's not strictly charity. People are taxed to fund that. Charity is a voluntary endeavour rather than an involuntary one.
But yes, but this does not cover over the fact that we have lost contracts to build the Elizabeth II. We have a declining heavy industry, which has been the backbone of our economy since really partition. So what can we do to improve this? What can we do? What can we do, as I would describe, to be a cultural shift? And that would be dealing with the dependency culture here. Labour force participation in Northern Ireland is at 70%. That is the amount of able-bodied males that are actually looking for work. That is the lowest in the United Kingdom. And it is a problem to deal with. It represents a lack of...
Considering we are also in the United Kingdom the highest for mental health and chronic health problems, do you not think this is a statistic to be expected?
Well, this is to do with layers of unemployment, but that is it definitely factors into it. And certainly that could be improved by bringing in extra money. However, the real way to solve this underlying hopelessness is not just to put up our hands and defeat and say it's over. It is to actually pull ourselves from our bootstraps and begin working under our own steam by becoming the small focused area for IT and small business.
On that point,
yep.
could we also engage the able-bodied females to help you along?
No doubt about it. Actually, the Northern Ireland reading statistic has the lowest gender income inequality in the United Kingdom. Although I think that's mainly due to the presence of my next point, which is another major economic problem, that the public sector is crowding out the private sector. And by giving it more fuel, we are effectively strangling... I need to finish this. 67% of our workforce is in the public sector. And this is mainly due to the legacy of the Troubles and actually overcoming the fact that we don't really have a future. We can only put our hands up and continue going forward, pretending like nothing is happening. But no, this is not a problem of lack of funds. This is a problem of a lack of a plan, simply put. And why? Why would we just bring more money to the same politicians to do the same thing that we were doing, which is inevitably leading the same result? Unsustainability and lack of a future. So, I asked the House, what kind of Northern Ireland do you see ourselves in 50 years? The resident backwater of Europe, devoid of any real economic activity outside of sucking the lifeblood of other nations, without any enterprising individuals? Or would you see us take the brave step? Would you like to see us commit to our own cultural drift towards a smaller and focused economy? To that I say, vote the opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Adair. And now I'd like to welcome Mr. Kieran Gallagher to close the podcast.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I agree in a sense with something that Mr. Kit Harrington said recently about the nation's capital. We are a depressing case. I just today met with the Minister Friedel, a department that is likely not going to exist in the near future, and we were discussing just the fact that the whole third level education sector is in hopeless decline. a symptom of this very recently cropped up. 43% of students next year will not be receiving bursaries intended for students from low-income families on the same level, or those from low socio-economic backgrounds. This is because there is no more money available from the Northern Irish Executive, and we must apparently be the only part of the UK disinvesting in education, bearing in mind we have absolutely no other useful industries in this country. And that's not mentioning the state of the health sector either. The point is, ladies and gentlemen, we have completely and utterly failed to look after ourselves, or at least those who we have elected have completely failed to look after us. We still argue about flags and quibble over supposedly competing cultures, fail in keeping up with the rest of the UK in terms of social progressions such as marriage equality, etc., etc. To sum up, we can't progress socially or financially and are collectively too dumb to realise our strengths and exploit them, but are all too happy to fling ourselves into stupid, outdated arguments about social symbols of sovereignty.
On that point, sir.
Yes.
So you expect other people to fund you?
Were it not, ladies and gentlemen, were it not for the fact we sit locally on the traditionally powerful side of Europe and on an island that America has an over-enthusiastic affection for, we might likely be considered on the same level of aid priority as the third world country. That said, I'm not saying of all worthy causes we deserve high priority status as a charity. I remind you technically Queen's University is a charity. But we are certainly and undoubtedly in need of money. It's somewhat justifiable. In fact, I wouldn't agree with them on this point, but it is somewhat justifiable that Westminster has given us more money than we deserve, much like bailing out a well-meaning friend who refuses to stop visiting the casino. And we have... Bear in mind, actually, I just mentioned Queen's University as a charity. We have charities for sport, as a member of the proposition already brought up. We have charities for building maintenance. Don't you think the likes of ourselves are probably eligible beside such things?
On that point, then?
Yes.
Well, this isn't really your fault. This is an unexamined premise that everyone's been working from, giving your damning indictment to Northern Ireland a couple seconds ago. Why do we think we want what's best for Northern Ireland?
Yeah.
Well, okay, I accept the challenge. I put it to you, ladies and gentlemen. What are we progressing at the moment? Hands up. Anyone? No, I didn't think so. Okay. Plus, I actually think in this country we are too often too complacent with such, with our sick and unacceptable condition. No, right now, thank you. Those people who are guilty of this complacency, I think deserve a slap to the ego. Now what do you want?
The last 40 years, in Northern Ireland has been many things. I don't think complacent is one of them.
Well, when I talk about complacency, I talk about those who are complacent, not with the, as I already alluded to, competing cultural struggle and divide, but rather the situation that we have a competing division of culture. Not right now, I do need to press on. Anyway, besides, I also want to bring up an example while I have a little time. I'm sure we can all think, if we thought really hard, of another nation state which acts as a charity. The Catholic Church collects money from its members globally to fund half a square mile of palace marble and gold. I put it to the House that Northern Ireland deserves more charitable donation than the Vatican, personally speaking. And you know what, I do accept I am damning of Northern Ireland quite a bit here. And that's because I don't think it's good enough. We are the equivalent of an endangered species that only continues to survive thanks to the privilege of refuge granted to us by another more capable and caring species.
on sort of the entire gist of the speech.
Yes.
Well, it seems to me all of this is adding up to a big argument for the opposition. You repeatedly said that we take too much money in, which is something charity, and redistribute it in daft ways
from public funding,
charities, etc., etc. I mean, I don't see where your argument is getting to the point it's making.
My point is, the charitable, a charity invites people out of their own conscience and goodwill voluntarily to give money. We absorb too much public funding, it could be argued. That's the distinction. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying let's reap all we can get, but it's probably not a morally good deal. Now, where was I? And I might also add, myself and Mrs. Crosby have actually worked for a charity for many years as well. We know how it goes. Right, I don't have much more time to go on, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not insulting Northern Ireland by proposing this motion any more than I insult those with chronic illnesses for requiring funding for research into their condition. Although the motion itself might actually insult those that are ill. Anyway, the country that we live in hasn't the money to look after itself, it hasn't the brains, I think we can all agree, to look after itself, and it suffers from a chronic condition of social division. We are beyond our own help is the crux of what I'm saying here. What other description could better warrant a charity case? We are poor, ill, and helpless. Not giving us charity status, ladies and gentlemen, would be an act of extra contemptible cruelty. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gallagher. And now I'd like to welcome Mr. Finn Rogers to close the debate.
I think we're very small for a very Ashley Gallagher of this debate.
It'd be nice to have you dead. Firstly, Mr. Gallagher, Northern Ireland is more deserving of charitable donations than the Catholic Church. When exactly did you join the DUP? Ladies and gentlemen, small friendly creatures with no clique or allegiance. What we've heard from them, the proposition this evening, is nothing but disgraceful and utterly fabricated propaganda. All the sort of Lord Woodbury's parliament could scarcely have dreamed of. For years, don't get over it. Bias against this proper Ireland, as opposed to, that Free State face down there. You really just like how I say that. Northern Ireland is not a charity, ladies and gentlemen. Oxfam is a charity, as one was touched on earlier. I can't remember from whom. Oxfam does good works. Northern Ireland is a basket case, an anomaly, and Northern Ireland should not, in the strictest possible sense, exist. Listen to the historian on this one. Northern Ireland was first established as a temporary solution to two rather pressing problems. The first of which was civil war. Nice one on that one, boy George. Good job jotting those lower comments. The second was to protect Ulster's industrial interests, because the fear of unionists was that in being part of a country where 80% of the economy is based on agriculture, the remaining quarter, which is industry-based, would be left in the tall grass the cows couldn't get to.
80% and 25% do not add up to 100.
Never read Woodhouse.
That's why much of a basket case it is.
You would have got the reference. Also, margin of error. As evidenced by a unionist postcard about circa 1913, which predicted that within 5 to 10 years of Home Rule, Donegal Place would be given over to grazing cattle. The tarmac completely gone, replaced with grass. A magnificent crack right down the middle of it, sinking into the ground City Hall, and two rather dramatic statues of John Redmond and John Dillon in the place of Victoria. they were right, more or less. But what they weren't right about, what they got wrong, and unfortunately for them, was that it was their fault. It is time, ladies and gentlemen, that once and for all we ripped off the political, ideological plaster and moved on from this temporary solution.
On that way.
Charity station, no thank you. Charity status is no solution. Instead, Northern Ireland should be privatised. This is the solution. The solution to all of Northern Ireland's problems. No thank you. That appeals to both communities, that will bring peace.
On this point, sir.
No thank you. Actually, yes, count. Actually, no, hang on. Now, for unionists, it would be maintaining the British culture of the last 40 years of privatisation. The long course of selling off the family silver from steel, BT, the railways, Royal Mail.
British gold.
We don't need label. After all. And that is a positive step for Northern Ireland because after all, postmen have never tried to destabilise the British state. It just makes sense. Meanwhile, privatisation for nationalists.
On that point, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
I think it's very, very unfair to assume that Northern Ireland is just unionist nationalists. There's quite a lot more than that.
Yes. Yes, fan centres. Who didn't get the medals? The ones we didn't have a chance to shoot. Jesus
Would the last speaker like to retract his previous comment?
No barking! Don't make me set Prescott on you. Make for privatisation will for nationalists be a move towards the Republic. Because, just think how happy they will be when Newry is owned by Google. And so,
on that point, sir.
yes, ma'am.
Do you propose that HBO owns Belfast?
Oh, the television company.
Yeah.
They already do. That's the point it's got to be made. All the empty buildings in Belfast, they are just TV studios. They're the settings for Game of Thrones. And I think if we were being bad, although it was deemed too desolate for that show. I think we might. In conclusion, Northern Ireland has been a charity. For the last 40 years, for the entirety of the Troubles, Northern Ireland was a charity for Boston Democrats. The next stage is clearly privatisation. To make these 6 counties a utopia of steel and glass. Just imagine how Larne would be demolished. How much lovely for visitors coming in on Starline, standing on the bow of that magnificent ferry. When the first thing they see when they reach the dock is a much needed coffee, rather than a never needed and medically detrimental
Ulster fry.
Larne. Also, it would solve the name dispute, because the most northwestern county would forever more be known as Derry Crone.
Yes, so first things first. Mr. Rogers, due to some of the more, we'll go with interesting points that you brought up that were in fact in violation of our laws, I am indeed going to have to fine you 1 bottle of port wine.
Hello, me again. I'm once again advising you to turn down your volume, if you can, as the house is about to become quite raucous. Because, for those of you who weren't there and therefore do not know, at this very moment Mr. Rogers stood up, went over to his bag, and withdrew a bottle of port, which he had apparently brought with him for this precise occasion.
Seconded.
We only have plastic cups, so I'll keep it for the house.
It's technically half a bottle too. He's drank it.
I think we'll get it.
You know what? I'll allow it. Finn has wine. Yous are all entitled to it. Get them after the debate. So you do have to continue to the forward bit. I am conscious of time, but we will have a few points. So you can ask a question. One of you will answer on either side. No back and forth. Okay, so any questions for the proposition? Yes, Ms. Chapel.
So this is a question that came in from Twitter from @GregoryWoods12, who asked the proposition who they think would give to Northern Ireland if it was charity, because his answer is nobody.
Actually, I'll let you.
No, you go first if you like.
Okay. I already said in my speech that America is already over-enthusiastic about both sides of the border on this island. And actually, that would do, I think.
Oh, my answer was going to be America as well.
Only one person on either side can respond. I did. One person on either side. Yes.
Well, the precedent that's been set has been for both the United Kingdom government and the EU through hush money. But what other people who would have a strategic interest in Northern Ireland? Probably be some shadowy cabal of industrialists with subversive interests. So you either got to go with our current elected representatives who only know how to line their own pockets, or you're going to go with some elusive group of technocrats to give out this money. I don't think either situation's for the betterment of Northern Ireland in either direction.
Okay, any questions for the opposition?
Henry, be kind.
Consistency. That's what I want, and I asked for the opposition because when you vote tonight, in theory, you vote on the collective proposition or the collective opposition. Well, exactly. The question isn't even for you, Finn, so please hold on.
Oh, sorry.
For the opposition side, I ask, you revoke a charity and you speak consistently of the problem with green and orange, with green and orange, with green and orange, and yet surely charity solves those things. So do please, if you will, answer that. But more importantly than that, the man in the middle there who refuses to call himself Henry, and he's wrong for that, but nonetheless, talks about hush money, when what he means to say is charity. So does he either think we should still be fighting because that's what hush money is, or rather more importantly, do his co-speakers disagree that charity is charity and not hush money?
If I could just answer that first. You talk about just a charity solving it. I think it's pretty naive to think just implementing a charity will solve the green and orange. It's pretty well ingrained in it, and I think bringing in a charity isn't going to be the solution to it. And the hush money that we talked about before, it's actually well recognised that around the 70s and the Troubles that the UK government did inject money into Northern Ireland to try and abate the violence that was going on, which then promoted the public sector to bring us up to that 1 in 3 people are actually employed in the public sector at the minute. And that's why we're so dependent on the state at the minute, because we've had that massive injection of money from the 70s, and we've now need to move away from that dependence and actually create and promote growth in the private sector rather than relying ourselves on the public sector. And it's absolutely, it wasn't hush money and it wasn't charity, it was money trying to be invested in the, it was hush money, sorry, like in a way, like it wasn't charity, it was money trying to keep Northern Ireland a bit more quiet. And on the first point, I really don't think a charity in itself will create the solution to the green and orange. I think it's something that needs to be tackled by cultural shifts. which I'll give no reason of how it will come about. It'll happen.
Yeah, you kind of said there that our money won't solve the problem. But it seems to me that if a man is on the top floor of a burning house and you open the front door, that's at least slightly helpful. What you're suggesting is that we simply pass the burning house and ignore it. I use the term hush money, which what did you say you defined that as? Sorry.
The hush money?
Yeah.
It was money that was injected into Northern Ireland via Bay of Ireland.
Oh, I see. So you shouldn't give, you shouldn't help people out of.
No, I didn't say what was happening. It was involved in this time.
Oh, I was kind of hoping to go back and forth. Okay.
No, or did that end? Okay. Any questions? Just neutral points on the motion.
Rather than setting Northern Ireland up as a charity, why not sell Northern Ireland to a hedge fund?
Yes, thank you.
Right, as a venture capitalist, what do you think of that?
Okay, I think most people, I'm going to go with the benefit of the doubt here, would probably agree that we have been let down by our executive and our government in general. If there's anyone I can think that I would trust less than elected politicians, even if there are some, is private sectors in control of our total control of our economy and total control of our government and public services. For goodness sake, they can't even control themselves with fizzy drinks. Why do we assume they'll take good care of us?
Opposition, would you like to respond?
Well, while I won't endorse any solution to this problem, I will say though that would solve a lot of Northern Ireland's major political issues if it was controlled by some kind of executive board of stockholders. Instead of naming parks after morally dubious characters from the past, we can just have brand names and while yes, they're slimy characters, while politicians may be consistently loyal to buying their own voters, what industrialists want to do is sell products, and so they're more loyal to profit, which will help us better than those who are loyal to violence.
At what cost?
Citation.
Maybe one more round. So any questions for proposition? Yep.
As much as I've thoroughly enjoyed looking around my Northern Irish friends with complete contempt this evening, the self-deprecation that you need to say, yeah, we're going to be a charity, like how are you going to, presumably you're going to get Northern Ireland to vote, yes, we do want to be a charity, and how on earth would you convince people who are proud of where they're from and proud of their country that they need help from the outside and they need to be a charity?
Isn't convincing someone that they need help the first step to actually help them? But isn't that the thing they say with alcoholics? The first step is accepting that you need help, and then the healing process begins.
I don't believe you're a full country of alcoholics. It's very nice of you.
But I try my best.
Okay.
I would just like to make the point that anyone who is proud of being Northern Irish and proud of being Northern Ireland, from Northern Ireland, should probably be checked for an inferiority complex.
So, any questions for the opposition?
It's less a question for the opposition as a whole, as Mr. Dare yourself. You made the point that we should perhaps celebrate the point that we have the lowest gender pay gap. Can you just back that up for me?
Well, it depends on how you define it. Although there is no real gender pay gap outside of aggregate numbers, our aggregate numbers are actually consistently lower, mainly due to the fact that women tend to go into public sector jobs, and in Northern Ireland, all we kind of have are public sector jobs. So in aggregate, it tends to balance out, even actually taken over recently, which I found very interesting in terms of comments. But yeah, if that backs up evidence of that.
No, we need to Alright, proposition.
That was the point.
Do you have anything to say? Yes.
That's our point of clarification.
Yes, for response.
Yes.
So the other question was, why should we celebrate it?
Sorry. Well, I mean, I guess it's just a hope that due to all the negative things said about Northern Ireland, I guess we've got some sort of egalitarianism slightly under the surface. Although that's kind of just semantics, isn't it?
Proposition to anything to add? No. So any questions just on the motion? Yeah. Marguerite?
Can I just have a quick follow-up to Alex's question? After being awarded Feminist of the Year and our outcomes yesterday, how do you feel about this supposed no gap in wages?
Well, as Feminist of the Year, I can say I'm incredibly pleased that we're moving towards a brighter, much more equal future. And on that, I will say no more.
Main words, God,
Nothing. Possibly responded.
Was there any? I was going to say, was there any kind of response?
I honestly don't know.
Can we just shout objection?
Okay.
Objection.
Okay. I think that's all we would have time for. Just before we go to the vote, I want to say a really quick thank you to you all. Thank you for voting for me. Thank you for making something so wonderful. These are going to be really, really good.
Cheers for the president. Hip hip. Hip hip.
Okay, guys, come on. We're so close to the end.
Huzzah!
And then we're at the start. So exciting. Okay, so we are going to have two votes as a tradition now. So the first vote is on what you think personally. So if you agree that this house would make Northern Ireland a registered charity, please raise your hand and say aye. Yes. And if you disagree with the motion, please say nay.
Nay.
Everyone 17.
And if you don't really have any personal opinion on this motion at all,
It'd be freedom or vote.
Pansies.
6.
Maybe throw a toucher now. It's so good up here. Okay. So the next one, only members can actually vote. So you just have your membership cards out. Predictable wrestling for membership cards. Yes. Are we getting our cards? Are we done getting our cards? Are we done getting fake cards? Yes, done, okay. And so this is based on which side you thought spoke better tonight?
Shame resign.
That is so rude on my last day. That is so rude.
You should be used to it.
Pride. So anyway. No. I am bigger man. Yes, this is based on who you thought spoke better tonight. So if you thought that the proposition spoke better tonight, please raise your extra cards.
You motherfucker.
9.
Shame to all.
Really? Hands high. Come on.
Henry, how do you off? Yes. 1.
Are you voting as well? I don't need this. I'll go with you.
Okay, and everybody who thought that the opposition spoke better tonight, please raise your extra cards.
7.
And everybody who thought
Morning
both sides
walk.
spoke really well tonight, please raise your cards.
Oh, don't jump in the ladder.
Nicest way we could put it.
7.
Yeah. Okay, so the proposition wins tonight.
Robbie. Well, so ends another year. I can't quite seem to turn the dial. Shoot my hand, you're too sweaty.
Knees weak, arms are heavy. There's vomit on a sweat already.
Indeed. So, end of the year.
Yes.
Any thoughts of the year past?
Well, it's been a jolly good season for us, all in all. I'd say from inauspicious beginnings, we rose like a phoenix from the proverbial ashes. I think we should end as we begin, with no professionalism whatsoever.
Shawady.
Precisely.
See you next semester.